Hi there, this is Art and Such with my Rainbow Loom tutorial for Enoch O'Connor from Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. For this pattern you're going to need clear or pale gray for the sleeves, a darker gray for the vest, black for the pants and hair, some skin tone. For the eyes I will be using a couple of small pearl beads and a Sharpie marker to draw on pupils. I'm also going to be taking a piece of dental floss. I'll show you how to put the eyes on that way. You can also use other beads of choice, or you can use bands for the eyes. And I'm also going to be putting on a couple of little beads for his vest buttons. So without further ado, we are ready to start on the arms, and you're going to need a couple of skin tones. So let's begin with 2 skin tone bands. We're going to pinch them together, put them on the end of the hook, and wrap them 1, 2, and 3 times onto the hook, and pull this onto 1 set of double skin tone. And then let me double check my number here. 2, 3. Yep, that's right. 7 sets of your sleeve colored bands. In my case it's going to be clear, and we're using double bands each time. So 2 bands together, put them on the end of the hook, slide your first piece over and replace. That's the first set and our second set, and we want a total of 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to make the other arm in exactly the same way. So grab 2 skin tone bands, put them together on the end of the hook, and wrap 1, 2, 3 times. Pull it onto 2 more skin tone bands. Replace. And then we need another 7 sets of double sleeve colored band pairs, or sets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And for the legs, we're going to make all of it in black. And you can make these a little bit shorter if you want to, or play around with the size, the length in other ways. As for me, I'm going to take 2 bands, wrap them together on the hook 1, 2, 3 times. These are black, and it's going to go onto 11 sets of double black bands. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. If you want to put these on separate hooks, you can, or you can leave them together. I'm just going to keep them all here, and we're going to make the other leg same thing. 2 bands wrapped 1, 2, 3 times, pulled onto 11 sets of double black. 1, 2, just going to center that a little more. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. We're going to come to our loom next. It's in the offset configuration. So middle row is just above the other two. And we start at the top with 2 skin tone bands, top center to the second set peg down in the center. You're going to switch to the color that you used for your sleeves and come down with that color, double bands from the second center to the second far side, and again second center to the side closest to you, and twice in the middle with that same color. Double bands again. I believe this is all using double bands. Okay, on either side we're going to come down with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of double gray, starting at the second peg down, double bands again. And then on either side we want 1 set of double black bands. Now if you don't want to put buttons on, then you can place 3 sets of double gray bands down the center starting at the 4th peg down, and 1 set of double black. If you do want the buttons, then this is what we do. 2 gray bands from the 4th to the 5th peg, 1 gray band from the 5th to the 6th, and just get another gray band handy. You're going to take one of the beads that you're going to lay on as a button, put a piece of floss or thin wire through it, put that through a gray band, and then bring it back over and back through. This is how we're going to do the eyes as well. In a second I can show you a method if you want to use a band as a button. This is going to go from the 5th to the 6th peg on top of the one you laid down already. We're going to repeat that in a minute. Just really quickly, if you wanted to do, let's say, a clear band as a button, you could wrap it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, 3 or 4 times, maybe 3 times, and put a gray on the end and just slide that until it's in the middle. So that can work too. I think the beads look a little nicer, they're a bit more subtle. We're going to repeat what we just did on the next set of pegs. So lay down a single gray, get your floss handy and your bead handy, thread on your bead, just part way, run it through a gray band, pull your floss back over and back through the bead from on top, like from the opposite direction. So back over the band and back through the bead. And pull it to the center and lay that on top of the gray band you just placed. And then we want 2 black bands together onto the next peg. And we're almost ready to add our legs. I'm just trying to remember if I put an extra band on there. So hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, we're going to use one that's here. So we're already set. So you want to carefully start taking one of your legs off. And one side, you see I've got 2 sides here, one side is going to go on your 8th peg down on the side, and the other will go on the 8th peg down on the center, so it stretches across the side peg to the middle peg. And do the same thing for the other side. Your arms are going to go onto the second pegs down on either side respectively. Just transfer it directly from your hook. Make sure you get all the bands. We're going to take a single black band in just a second and cap off the 8th center peg. So put it on top. You're going to twist it, pop it back over once, twist, pop it back over twice, and pop it back over 3 times. This band is kind of loose, so I'm going to do an extra one just on mine. Our holding bands are going to be single triangle bands. So take a black band or a gray band, lay it across your 7th pegs down and bring it up over the 7th center peg down. So literally we're making a triangle, and we're going to repeat this above using gray 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're ready to loop up the body. Not so bad. Okay, this is, happily, this is probably the hardest part of this whole thing. So you want to, I'm just trying to push this back a little so you can see. We want to get inside the cap band and underneath, and we're going to grab the 2 bands that are coming from the right side without popping this off, hopefully. Okay, carefully get those 2 over, and just to secure, I'm going to reach inside for the bottom 2, but let me show you it on the other side first so you can see it a little more closely. So go back in the center, get the next 2, carefully bring them around and down to the closer side, and what we do to secure is bring your hook through, open part facing up, pointing up, grab the bottom 2 and bring those forward. I'm going to go in the center one more time and loop upwards, and we secure on the far side. So I'm just repeating what I did on the left, which is to get the bottom 2. We can do that again here. We're actually at this point gonna continue up on each of the sides, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's right. We'll do the sides, up the sides, and then we'll do the center row last. So continue until you reach the 2nd peg from the top. Then you want to, I'm gonna just loosen these up here a little bit. Reach into the bands on the 2nd peg down, find the bottom 2 sleeve colored ones, and bring them over onto the 2nd peg down in the center. We want to loop up, I almost lost a band there, I'm glad I got that. The bottommost bands, the bottom 2 bands on the other side, right to the top, and we're mirroring what we just did. Go inside and bring the bottom 2 to the center, and then we're returning to the 7th peg down in the center row, grabbing your 2 grays together and bringing them forward. 2 grays together, bringing them forward. Nothing else we have to do with the buttons. This works out really nicely because we are going to turn this around after, so the buttons show up on the opposite side. Hold on to the bands on the top center peg, and you can carefully use the back of your hook to remove all of the bands down the side and along the other side. And then we can put the hook through the bands on the top center peg. Now if your loom is a little bit weak or you're worried about breaking bands, you can ease off some of the lower bands before you release the top ones. And when you're ready, take the rest of them off. So we're going to turn them around. You can use another hook to go through. I'm just going to kind of pinch this and carefully put my hook back from the opposite direction. So there's his body. And for the head, we're coming back to the loom. We're starting with black bands for the hair. Oops, so let me pull up my reference picture here. Okay, black bands from the top center to the top right. Black bands down from the top center to the top left, and we're still using double bands. Okay, we're going to come down once on the far side with double bands, twice in the center, and twice on the close side. Now this didn't have that's what I was just looking at, quite as pronounced an effect as I wanted. I was trying to get a little more length and definition on the one side. That's something you might want to play around with if you want to put an extra set of black on one side, like an extra side, or if you want to try and add an extension and see how that works. You can certainly give it a try. On the side closest to you, we want now one set of double skin tone bands, and in the middle, on the right side, the far side, 2 sets of double skin tone. And in the middle we want 2 sets of double skin tone bands. And this is, each of these, it's just going to start from where you left off at the last peg. Take 2 skin tone bands, bring them from either 4th peg to the center 5th. So we're going to close in the facial area here. And we want doubled over holding bands. So take a single skin tone, stretch it, twist it, pull it back onto itself, and bring that across all of your 4th pegs down in a triangle. We're going to do the same just above. And I believe our top one is going to be in black. And it looks like I did not double that over. I think we want a bit of volume in the hair. So we're just going to take a single block, stretch it across. And the last thing to do with the face before we add on the body is to add the eyes. So I've already showed you how to do this with the buttons. The only difference is that whether you're transferring your beads, whether you're transferring bands or pony beads from a hook directly onto, and I specifically picked this because it looked like it had a nicely sized, easy to get through hole. Let's try this side. Okay, try that again. So if you're using bands or pony beads that can go from a hook onto a band, you're going to put 2 of them on together. And if you're using beads, you're going to transfer those onto a skin tone band together. So that's the only difference. The buttons, you only had 1 bead or band on each of the gray bands, the vest bands. Here we're going to put both of our eyes onto a skin tone band. So they go together. And we're going to lay this across from one third side peg down to the other 3rd side peg down. Get your hook in the middle, pull the beads or bands apart, and you want to get the band that they're sitting on to stretch up over the 3rd peg down in the middle. Now make sure your body is facing up so that the buttons are showing. Your knot is at the back. Your sleeves are kind of showing over. Everything's in order. Transfer the bands from your hook onto the 5th center peg down. We're ready to leave up. We're almost done. Alright, so reach under the piece you just added, get the top 2 or the next 2 skin tone, bring them to the far side, and loop straight to the top now. I'm really hoping that some of you are going to try this with gray bands for the sleeve and share some pictures with me, because I'd really like to know how that looks. Unfortunately I couldn't get a hand on any light gray bands at short notice, but that would have been my ideal. Unfortunately, they don't, you can't really buy rainbow loom bands where I am. I have to get them shipped usually, unless like there are 1 or 2 colors I can get locally, but usually I have to order them and wait a couple weeks. Okay, we're going to go from the top sides to the center, bottom 2 bands, and come back to that 5th peg down in the middle. Get your bottom 2 or remaining 2 skin tones, loop them forward, and loop straight up to the top. Take 1, or for extra security, 2 black bands, and we're going to take the hook, face the open part of it away from you, and push it through the bands on the top center peg. Grab your securing band or bands and pull them up through, and as you're coming up you want to twist your hook so that the open part is facing upwards. Then you can pull the other side on and bring the far side over the close side to create a slip knot. So hold on to that, or leave it on a hook, or put it on a C-clip. We're going to take this off of the loom. Almost done, guys. This was a fast one. Sorry it took me so long to get it up. Been having computer problems on top of a busy schedule lately. Okay, so we're going to turn this to the back for a minute. Put the hook under a nearby band or 2. Put the securing band on, and you're going to pull it under the other bands. And this is going to go right onto a C-clip to secure it. If you have any loose bands, you can weave them closer and you can put those on the C-clip or another C-clip as well. I like to put another band on through the C-clip just so that it doesn't flop around. And the last thing we've got to do, if you have used beads as I have, is to draw on the pupils. I'm going to make 2 really big circles toward the top of the eyes. Now, I don't have a lot of brown bands, so there are a couple of characters that you might be waiting on, but I'll try and get to them as soon as I can. In the meantime, I'm hoping to get back to some of the other sets that have been waiting as well. Oh, just if you're interested, the difference between the first and the second, because there is a small difference, is that there is 1 extra set of skin tone, but I've taken that off because in the movie, his face is a lot more square. So if you're like, what did Art and Such do wrong here? Something's not right. That was a deliberate choice. Okay, so here's your finished one. I do have some other Miss Peregrine's tutorials out. I hope you'll have a look. They'll be in a playlist for you. And I thank you for watching.